pretend that this is the next day because the next episode is my favorite episode. Hi guys, welcome back to Magnus Archives, and this is episode number 5. It's called Thrown Away, and NA, there is a date, but we do have an address and we do have a victim name. So let's get into it. Okay, so we get into Kieran Wood, who goes on a rant just about how he is a bin man person, and a bin man is our version of a trash man, unless you're from the UK and you call them a bin man. But he talks about like what a happy bin man is. So if you put all your garbage in a garbage bag with like it tied up and everything, versus a mad bin man who, if you take cat litter and you just sprawl it out over the entire trash can, they will not forget who you are. Or if you throw away really weird shit, they will not forget who you are. And he makes this good point, which is garbage never really goes away, and they are the last people to see it. So therefore, if they see something really weird in the garbage can, they are gonna call the police. So you can still go to jail for that shit, and that is something that is still relevant today. So if you're throwing away something, be careful as to what the fuck you're throwing away. Alright, but we start off with 93 Lancaster Road in Walthamstow, or Walthamstow, I think it's called. And we start off with him and his buddies going over to that location, and they see bag number 1. Bag number 1 is a black bag that's a little bit tore. It was by a green bin, and it had a bunch of doll heads inside of it. And so everyone kind of found this a little bit weird. Some found it a bit fascinating, like Alan, who is one of the workers, found it a little bit fascinating. And they ended up calling it the dollhouse, and that was their new nickname for it, because it was a bunch of infant faces that looked like it was damaged in the concrete, that was dragged on the concrete. So who knows, really? And then a couple weeks later, we have bag number 2, not dollhouse number 2. Oh my goodness. So bag number 2, Alan, of course, since he wanted to keep an eye on that address, he was very excited to see that there was another bag there. And so he sees that this next bag is unmarked, and that it's kind of bulging a little bit, like something's trying to bulge out of it. And so they find that it's a very light bag, and it had a really long, it's only one long sheet of paper. And this really long sheet of paper had writing in Latin, and the edges were singed. And so everyone kind of thought like maybe this is like a Bible scripture, but they kind of found it a bit weird. Like, why are the edges singed? Like, what the fuck is going on? So this kind of put everyone at ease, including Alan. And then this is when we get to bag number 3. Now, bag number 3 is also a bulging bag. It sounded like it was kind of gravelly when they tried to pick it up. So of course Alan was like, let's look in the bag, guys. And so they look in the bag and they find out it's teeth. It looks like human teeth, and there's a lot of teeth in there. So automatically they get freaked out. Alan ended up throwing up and wasn't doing well at all. And he was very, very tired. And they ended up calling the police, and even the police freaked out, and they knocked out the door, and they saw an old woman come out who was looking confused. So they think maybe this bag was taken. Wow, that's so loud. He thinks that this one bag was taken from another property and then pulled to the other one. So now this is kind of when Alan starts to become a little bit weirder as the episode goes on, or the statement goes on. And Alan actually ended up being really tired every time they approached 93 Road. And so, Alan had a complete goal of trying to figure out who was the culprit behind putting those bags down. He was watching the house every single night after their shift. He ended up falling asleep behind the wheel of the company car, and therefore got fired because of it. And everyone was just telling him, like, you should take some time off, like, you shouldn't be watching this house, like, don't do this, like, this is really bad. So then, on August 8th, my birthday date, August 8th at 2 a.m., Alan texted Kieran and was like, found him. And then Kirian was like trying to text him back, was trying to call him, be like, what do you mean? What are you talking about? Alan was never heard from after this. He was completely gone, like silent, nothing. And so that's when Kirian headed to 93, the little address, and he saw nothing but a new bag that had like a nice green bow on it. So he's like, what the fuck? He looks in the bag, it's a bunch of like packing peanuts, and then he sees a bronze heart that has Kirian's name carved into it. And everyone's like, what the fuck? Because it just has Alan P carved into it. And no one has seen Alan since. Very creepy, right? Important notes time. So we have some important notes for this episode. And one of these important notes is that every coworker confirmed everything that Alan and Kirian has gone through. They made a copy of Alan's text and showed him everything. Martin tried to do a follow-up with Woodman. Woodman said that there was no more, also Kirian Wood, his last name is Woodman, so just a little bit more context. Woodman said that there was no more bags. Sasha found Alan's missing persons report, and they also found the medical report for the teeth. They were human teeth, 2,780 of the same exact tooth that were all in different stages of decay. So that's really creepy. Overall, I love this episode because it's a little bit of a mystery and I want to know what happened to Alan and what the fuck is going on with Alan. So hopefully we get to see a bit more of this, but I heard it's not going to be in season 2, so we're going to be waiting a really long time. Hi guys, welcome to episode 6 called Squirm. I've been not wanting to do this episode for a little bit just because there's a lot in this episode. Not a lot, but it will make you feel icky. So here are some trigger warnings beforehand. If you don't like bugs, if you don't like things that are like crawling under your skin, anything like that, don't watch this video. Just skip this part of the video, skip this episode, skip it. Anyways, let's get started into this whole episode. So, as per usual, you probably see now that I have case numbers on these, and you'll see why soon. Actually, yeah, you'll see why soon. So my new formatting hopefully will be having the case numbers above here, and you guys will understand in like a couple episodes why I'm doing that now. It's good to keep track of them too. But this episode's called Squirm. It's already a horrible, horrible episode title. Our victim is Timothy Hodge. It is set in December 9th of 2014. And Mr. Timothy Hodge, he is a designer. He drinks on occasion, you know, he does a couple occasional drugs as well. He lives in Brixton, so of course this is based in London. He decided to go to a club for fun, and that's when he meets Harriet. And so Harriet she's skinny, she has long red hair, and apparently he talks about his type in this episode, so he likes a little student look that she gives as well. And he also liked that she had too much eyeliner on, which, how much is too much? Or maybe I'm just one of those too much eyeliner people. I don't have eyeliner on today, so maybe in the next video you see it. Then he's trying to be nice. He offers her a drink. She refuses and only wants water. But she seems really, really nervous, always checking the door. Her attention is always on the door. So he's kind of a little bit wary of that. But, you know, he's trying to get the girl. Like, he's trying to get the end goal of, like, having sex with her, like, doing all this fun shit with her. Like, he's not really caring about how she acts right now, which you should care. So then Harriet asks him in this very seductive way, do you want me? And of course he says, absolutely yes. And so she smiles, and then they leave the club and they walk home because his house is in walking distance. In the midst of them walking, she's consistently checking down the streets. She's very jumpy, very jittery, and she keeps scratching her arms to the point where there's these long red marks on her arms, and no one can really understand why. Except for the fact that she's like, scratch, 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 scratch. But then that's when he wants to check in with her to make sure that she's okay, and she just says she's okay, she just wants to find the house, she just wants to get inside. She sees the door to his apartment finally, and she does one final check as a little swoop around to make sure that no one's looking or following her, and then she goes inside. Now, Timothy asks again once they're in the apartment because he's trying to figure out what the fuck is going on with her, because he's like, I can't have sex with her if she's all this jumpy and whatever. And so she finally tells the story of her being mugged. Now, she's walking down the street to her apartment, and she sees a woman laying down in a red dress. Now, she's facing down on the pavement, and Harriet sees movement under her dress. So she's, like, calling out, being like, is everything okay? Are you okay? As soon as she hears that, the girl in the red dress jumps up and leapt to her feet and pushed her onto her shoulders and pushed her down, basically. And so as soon as she gets pushed down, she gets a really bad pain, and she gets a bad pain in her stomach. Now, at first she thought that she was stabbed, but she wasn't. She got a very, very small glimpse of the woman, and she also got growled at. All she knows is that the woman has black hair, too. Then that's kind of when she woke up from being, like, unconscious for a little while, and the woman was gone. But she always felt like the woman was following her or with her. That's what made her so jittery, and her attention was always on the doors as well. So then that's when she said that the itching on her arm started getting very unbearable, to the point where every time she would try to go to the police, she would start feeling horrible and like everything was itching, so she never went to the police. In the last 3 days, in order for her to feel safe, she started going into these mass populated areas. So she would go to bars, she would go to clubs, these different areas she would feel really, really safe in. That's where she was going the last 3 days. And then she kind of just started to cry, and because she was going through so much, she was like, let me just get this out now. Now, as she's crying, she turns and she kisses him. Now, Timothy, only thinking with one brain that isn't his head, decides to kiss her back, and then they fuck. And of course, Timothy gets what he wants, but then afterward he says in a statement like, oh, I feel like I took advantage of her, and it's just like, you wanted to fuck her after she started crying. Afterward, they laid together, and then he laid on her shoulder, but then he started feeling something squirming up on her skin. So then he like really badly flinched, and she was like, oh my god, it's fine. But of course he got up and he was like, I don't really want to deal with that. So he goes to the bathroom, and then that's when he hears her start to groan in pain, holding her stomach, hunched over. So he's like, oh my god, let me try to get her some Tylenol or something, like maybe she feels really bad, like did I do anything wrong, ? And so he was trying to find her some medicine, and then he was about to call the ambulance before he heard an egg cracking sound. It sounded like an egg just being dropped on the floor, and then silence afterward. So then all the lights were off except for the light that was coming through the window. And so as he's approaching the room again, he sees like a movement on the bed that's like moving around and squirming. And then he sees this like thick moving carpet all around the room. So he ends the statement off by saying that he made the flat catch on fire because he didn't know what the fuck it was, which is very good that he did this, but also you should have known not to fuck a random weird ass girl in the fucking club. I do have some important notes for this episode. So Sasha found the report from the police on November 20th. There was no evidence of human remains, but only of organic matter. So that could be like insects or like something else that just isn't human. So no Harriet, but where the fuck is Harriet? And so they found the missing report of Harriet, and that's when Jonathan kind of, slips in a little note that we should know. Jonathan, the person being the person to do the voiceover of this podcast, he's like, oh, the woman in the red dress is Jane Prentice. And he said that he was going to send her last appearance to the EDOD, which he never explains what the EDOD is. He just says, I have to send it to them. And so now they're unable to locate the guy for a follow-up. And now they're concerned for his health, especially if he had sex with her, apparently. So long story short, don't have sex with random people that you find on the internet. Or don't have sex with random people you find at the club. just, you know, get to know the person first. If you're gonna do a one night stand, that's fine. Maybe not pick a weird girl. But that's Squirm. Hopefully you guys liked it, and I'll see you guys in the next one.